Welcome to another video from Lockdown Electronics with me, Bill, and we've got part 2 this time of the Homelab signal generator restoration. If you've not seen part 1, it probably makes sense if you watched it first, but not essential. In part 1 I looked at it and decided what I needed to do, replaced most of the components, and the video was starting to get a tad long, so I decided I'd make it into a two-parter. Since I filmed the last part of the last video, I have replaced a couple more components, although not every one, and tried to sort that little noise problem, which I've partially cured. So let's start with a quick recap, and then when we've done that we'll get it hooked up to some test instruments and see what it's capable of. Okay, here we are with the internals, now that I've done pretty much all of the component replacement. New capacitors here and here, here and also here, and the only thing currently not replaced is that resistor there. I'm very careful here because there's some incredibly fine wires come off this coil, and I'm very concerned that if I break one of those I may have a problem trying to resolder it, so I'm playing careful there. So I don't know whether that is going to cause me problems or not. I had got quite a noisy output, and when I replaced that resistor there it improved it no end, as you'll hear about when we look at the results. We've also covered up some of these live connections with some heat shrink, not all of them but some of them, so it makes it a little bit safer. And I was a bit concerned that the wax capacitor and the resistor here were problematic, so I've replaced those too. That's actually the grid, not the anode, but in fact when I measured those two components they were actually absolutely fine, so they probably didn't need to do that, but I've put new components in anyway. So yeah, there we are. I've also replaced the mains lead, as you can see, with a slightly more modern version. It's got a hint of retro to it, but it's certainly in a little bit better condition than the old one was, and yeah, securely earthed down there. So that's what I've done. There is also a variable capacitor on the end there, a little trimmer. I've done nothing with that, and I've certainly done nothing with these coils, although I have given the multi-position switches and the pots a squirt of switch cleaner and worked them a bit, which I think has improved things. So that's the internals. Let's have a look at the results. Okay, so I've got the signal generator here now with the various mods done to it, and going to test it out. So I've made up this slightly embarrassing plug that does work. It'll allow me to attach it to signal frequency counter to see what's what. So I've got it set up on the range 4, and according to the display it's on about 12 megahertz. Currently not switched on and cold. So here is a view of the signal generator, and this has been on now for about 30 minutes. Now it's a solid state signal generator, crystal controlled, and it was a good quality one, obviously not new anymore. So if I go to the check, this should show 1000, and you can see it does, so that's working all right. Now I've got my Untech signal generator here that always starts up on 10 megahertz. That's also crystal controlled. If I just pop that onto there, connected directly, you'll see it comes up pretty much bang on 10 megahertz. Yeah, there's a bit of a drift at the end there, but it's smallish. Now it's not calibrated, neither of them are, but I think we can safely say this is a reasonably accurate measurement for a Homelab, so to speak. So I'm going to plug in the Homelab signal generator now, like so, and that's just spurious there. So I'm going to switch on and let the valves warm up. So that's power on. and just give it a moment or two to spring into action, and you can now see it's showing 12,000, where are the 12 million and 13 there, 1201, well okay, 12014 shall we say. Let's not worry about the 0.7. So that's at switch on. It's now just after, well, about a minute after 11 o'clock. So I'm going to leave it switched on for 20 minutes without changing anything, and I'll come back to the video after it's sat there for a bit, and we'll see what the stability is like once it's warmed up. Okay, here we are back. It's just going up on 11:30 now, so the signal generator has been sitting there for just about 30 minutes, power on, and outwardly no different. I suspect the top of there feels slightly warm, but what you have to bear in mind is there's no ventilation holes in this instrument at all. There are two valves in there. There's also a variable capacitor, which is definitely going to have changed a bit in terms of its temperature. So here is the signal generator. I haven't changed anything. It's exactly as you saw previously, and as you can see, the frequency has dropped ever so slightly from about 13 down to 7 there, so still most definitely 12 megahertz. Now bearing in mind previous comments about this instrument being crystal controlled but not calibrated, so if we just do the quick check again, still coming up at exactly the thousands as it's supposed to do. I can definitely feel this is warm, but that's been on quite a while anyway, and yeah, so I think in terms of measurement perspective, this is quite remarkable, because this Homelab signal generator is not crystal controlled. The frequency is being controlled entirely by inductance and capacitance. There are the inductors inside, as you've seen on previous videos, and a variable capacitor which is directly attached to this knob. Now if I just turn that from, it's currently on the 12 megahertz, so if I turn it to the 11 megahertz mark, roughly there, yeah, that's pretty good really. And if I go up to, if I can see it, let's try 13 there. Bear in mind that the cursor line is several times narrower than the little mark on the scale, so yeah, 13 megahertz. So it's doing remarkably well, and I do appreciate that in these days of digital displays and digital technology, you can probably say, oh, it's not quite right, yeah, but we didn't have any of that back then, and the kind of folk using these would probably have been more than happy with what was going on. Let's go down to 9 megahertz there, see what it makes of it. Yeah, you know, this is pretty good really, and I'm genuinely incredibly impressed with the stability. Let's try 7.5 megahertz. What's that going to do? Yeah, as you can see, it's doing pretty well really. So yeah, nice. Now it isn't perfect, and I think what we now need to do is have a look at the output on an oscilloscope, look at some of the waveforms, and we can see, yeah, it's far from perfect, but gobsmackingly good stability in my opinion for something which is not crystal controlled and has effectively two heating elements inside it, and over a period of 30 minutes it's resulted in very little change in frequency. So yeah, remarkable really. Okay, back again. This time got the signal generator attached to my analog oscilloscope, and I've got it now on the lowest range here because my analog oscilloscope has got quite low bandwidth, but I do rather like it, so I'm unashamedly going to use it. So let's have a look what the scope says. Here it is. Let's try and just sharpen that image up for you if we can a little bit there. Yeah, okay, so that's the waveform, and if I just, I'm on the fastest possible time base here, so this is the highest frequency this scope is going to display. It's about the lowest frequency this generator will actually produce, but you can see as we wind up there, yeah, getting a nice smooth change. It's far from being a sine wave, but it's, yeah, it is what it is. I didn't expect this to produce a sine wave. We'll maybe get a digital scope and have a quick look at some of the waveforms from the higher bands, but there we go. Let's try and do that focus. But one of the things I do want to show you here is we've got these two settings here. We've got this continuous wave, what it calls external modulation, whatever that is, and it's got modulation audio frequency here on a switch. Now if I switch between those two, that's just on the CW straight. Let's just try and get that sharp. Yeah. If I swing it into AW, what you can see is there's a little bit of a change in the shape of the waveform, so something has gone on, and we can reveal that by simply altering the time base until we get to there, and you can see it is actually now being AM modulated. If I switch it back to CW, we get the straight waveform, but we do get the modulation effect there. Probably see it equally well there as well. Yeah, so yeah, you get the general idea, and yeah, I think that's doing all right really. So I'll just get it attached to a digital scope and just have a look, see if the digital scope agrees with the analog, although I'm sure it will. But that's yeah, nice for a few pounds off eBay. Pleased with it. Okay, here we are back, just looking at the digital scope. I've now got it on range 4. It's producing about 6.5 megahertz according to the counter, and you can see we get this noise glitch occasionally. I have a sneaking suspicion this is the capacitor and the resistor that I've not changed. I was very concerned about changing them because they're very close to some very delicate wires, and I don't want to disturb those, so I might have a go at changing them, but I suspect that's what it is. This improved dramatically when I replaced the 33 ohm resistor that was across the output of the RF output. Yeah, the RF output. So yeah, we have got that noise, but you can see as I alter the frequency, we're getting actually the higher the frequency, the better the waveform starts to become, and that's actually pretty reasonable up there. So we're now, would you believe, at 12 megahertz, which is what the frequency counter was showing us earlier. So yeah, that's not too bad really. And then onto the highest waveform. Yeah, that's that one. You can hopefully see that if I, yeah, there we go. So yeah, not bad at all really. Certainly capable of doing what it says with its VHF frequency range, which that's up at 50, about 45 megahertz there, something like that. And yeah, you can see that glitching. So I might have a go at changing that component, I might not, I don't know. But I do suspect that's what the problem is. I have been round tapping components and it hasn't made a great deal of difference, and the only two components not changed now are the that capacitor and that resistor. So if I think I can do the delicate soldering, I will. If not, I'm not going to risk it for what I've paid for this. But yeah, there you go. Valve or vacuum tube signal generator. Well, there you have Homelab signal generator working, not perfectly, and has an issue or two. Maybe does need that that difficult resistor replacing, or maybe it's something else, I don't know. I may or may not spend some more time on it, but hope you've enjoyed seeing me tinkering with that. Certainly worth a few pounds I paid for it on eBay, and I'm still really impressed with how incredibly stable it is for something that is not crystal controlled. Thanks very much for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.